My daughter banned me from her wedding, but hours later her future father-in-law desperately begged me to save his reputation. Hi everyone. I, 50-year-old female, have a 26-year-old daughter, Megan, who is supposed to be getting married to her fiancé, Reggie, in a couple of weeks. Unfortunately for me, Reggie comes from a very influential family, and they believe that I don't belong at their wedding, which is why even my daughter has turned against me. I have raised Megan all on my own ever since she was around 10 years old because my husband died in a road accident. I did have a couple of relationships in the last 16 years after my husband had passed away, but my main goal was always to make sure that Megan got the best of everything and that I was able to give her the life that my husband would have wanted. I thought that I had done a good job raising her on my own, but now I'm not so confident about that anymore. A few days ago, she came to my house and told me that she had a discussion with the family, and all of them thought that it would be for the best if I stayed out of the wedding. He comes from a pretty wealthy business family, and they own one of the biggest PR agencies in the country, so naturally, they do get to be in business with a lot of industry hotshots. When she visited me last, Megan told me that after speaking to her fiancé and his family, all of them thought that I was just not going to fit in with the rest of them. And not only would it be awkward for everyone else, but most of all, it would be awkward for me. So keeping that in mind, they had decided that they would have a private ceremony just for the family later on. But at this wedding, where everyone was invited, I wouldn't be present there since somebody like me just wouldn't fit in at the actual wedding. I couldn't even understand what on earth that was supposed to mean because it's not like I'm some uncivilized gorilla who doesn't know how to behave in public and is going to embarrass them. So I knew that it had to be about my financial situation. I guess that Reggie's parents had probably wanted him to get married to somebody who belonged to the same tax bracket and were already disappointed enough that he had chosen Megan since she definitely did not belong to the same kind of financial background. They had made their peace with that somehow, but I guess they were just not ready to accept that they would also become related to me after the marriage. And I should have guessed that this was going to happen right from the beginning. I told my daughter that I might not be as well off as them, but I made the best of my situation, and I raised her completely by myself, so I would say that I'm just as great as them. And even if I don't have a huge business of my own, I'm content with what I have. I've been a realtor for most of my life and have made a decent amount of money in my lifetime, and I still have a couple of good years left in me, so I have no intention of stopping so that she should let them know in case that's embarrassing them. I told Megan that I was a hard-working individual, and I could see that she and her fiancé and his family had no respect for me just because I was not earning as much as they were. And all of a sudden, just because I was not as rich as her fiancé and his family, even my own daughter refused to acknowledge my existence at her wedding. I was heartbroken, but I was not going to let go of my dignity, so I told her that I was not going to be attending the wedding if that's what she wanted. She tried to talk to me after that and explained to me that this was not personal, but I had no interest in hearing her out. And I told her to leave because I just didn't even want to speak to her anymore. It had become very clear to me that in the last 3 years that Megan had been dating Reggie, she had been completely brainwashed by him and his family, and now she believed that money was everything. I was very disappointed in her, so I did something that, now in hindsight, I'm not sure was the right move. Anyway, the day that she visited me to tell me that I wasn't going to be invited to the wedding, I was very upset and disturbed, and I couldn't bring myself to do anything that day. But the next morning, when I woke up, I decided that something had to be done and that this kind of disrespect could not go unanswered. I decided to go online and post about what had happened on Facebook. I did not spare any details and spoke quite freely about what had happened and about how I felt in this situation. At the time, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, and I still don't really think that I screwed up, but maybe I shouldn't have acted so hastily. Anyway, after I made that post, I didn't actually expect anything to happen, but I had tagged Reggie and his family members in the post. Now, his family is quite well known, so when people saw that post, of course, they started gossiping because nobody expected them to act like this with the mother of the girl that their son was marrying. After posting it, I decided to go about my day as usual, and a couple of hours after that, I started receiving multiple messages and phone calls from Megan's father-in-law-to-be, and he had started begging me to delete that post and undo all the damage that I had caused to their reputation because people had started texting them to let them know that they were very disappointed in their behavior, and they hadn't expected them to turn out to be so elitist. I had only answered one of his phone calls, and before I could even say anything, he started begging me to take the post down because since he owns a PR firm, his reputation is very important to him, and his entire business would collapse if word got out that he had been treating people like this. But after hearing him out, I simply said nothing and hung up. Yet he continued to message me. Some people had even said that they wouldn't be. attending the wedding because they wanted to show their support for me by doing so. And when I opened Facebook, I saw that I had a bunch of comments, and really supportive ones at that, from a lot of people who I didn't even know. I truly had not been expecting a reaction like that, and it kind of validated my feelings. So I contacted Reggie's father, and I told him that I would not be taking that post down because him and his family had brainwashed my daughter. And they had really insulted me by telling me that I would not be invited to their wedding because they did not think that I would belong there. So, now somebody like me was going to show them their place. After that, I blocked the numbers he had been trying to contact me from, and I didn't feel bad for him in the slightest. But then, Megan called me up, and she was sobbing on the other end. Now, no matter how mad I am at her, I'm still her mother, and I started feeling terrible because of how violently she was sobbing. I could tell that she was really distressed, and in spite of myself, I couldn't help but try to calm her down and console her. She told me that she knew that I was disappointed in her, and that what she had done was not the right thing to do, but she was just in a very difficult spot with Reggie and his family. And she thought that I was going to understand. She kind of dropped a lot of hints that maybe Reggie's family had insisted on not inviting me to the ceremony, and that's why she had been pushed into a corner. But still, being my daughter, I would have expected her to fight for me, and I was upset that she had given up so easily. Anyway, after a point, she told me that now what was done could not be undone. But the least that I could do was at least take that post down because it had created a lot of trouble in the family. And even though I was the one who had done it, everyone was pointing fingers at her. She tried to reason with me and told me that this power trip was eventually going to cost her her relationship and being her mother. Surely I would want to forgive her for her mistakes and not continue to take any anger out on her, even after knowing what kind of difficult situation she was in. And at that moment, I had to make a decision. And I decided that I was not going to take that post down because I was really hurt. I deserved to get my side of the story out there so Reggie and his family would know that they couldn't treat people like crap and then get away with it. I tried to explain that to my daughter, but Megan started crying even more and said that she was exhausted from having to pull off this balancing act all the time because, on one side, she had Reggie and his family, and on the other side, she had me. Obviously, she wanted to value all of us equally, but no matter how hard she tried, it just wouldn't work out, and she was just sick of it. So, then she told me that I was ruining her relationship just because I wanted to get back at Reggie's parents. Then she had nothing more to say to me and hung up. Now I feel really bad, and I'm not sure about whether I should take that post down or not, so I'm here to ask you guys. ITA for making a post that exposed my daughter's fiancé's family for being elitist? Edit. Alright, a lot of people seem to think that I was a bit all over the place in my original post and don't really understand exactly why Reggie's parents don't like me. So, I'm going to try and be as clear as possible in this edit, and I'll also try to provide a little bit more context so people can come to a conclusion. Basically, since his parents are quite well off and are very class-conscious, they never really liked me because I did not belong to the same tax bracket. Just to be clear, as I mentioned in my original post, it's not like I can't afford anything, but I lead a life like most normal people do. And I guess that they just can't stand the fact that, in spite of being significantly below them in terms of my finances, I'm still not treating them like they're anything special. Megan had told me that at the beginning of their relationship, Reggie's parents had not even liked her and had thought that she was a gold digger, but eventually, she had broken the ice with them. So, I already had a fair idea of what kind of people they were. But nevertheless, when we met for the first time, I tried to be as cordial as possible, and I was my usual friendly self. But I guess I did not like that because later on, Megan told me that Reggie's parents had told him that I was a bit too frank for their taste, and thought that I did not have any idea of how to conduct myself among people of their social class. I thought that it was a very unfair judgment because, by then, Megan and Reggie had been together for almost 2 years, and I thought it would be nice to try and be friendly with them. Anyway, after that, I realized that they probably expected me to treat them like royal guilty, and I wasn't ready to do that. So, whenever I would meet them after that, I would try to be civil to them, but I wouldn't speak to them much if I could avoid it. And so, the relationship between me and Reggie's parents had already been pretty strained, so that's why in my original post I said that I wasn't surprised, and I should have seen this coming right from the beginning. Anyway, Reggie's parents and I have always had problems, and even though I've always treated Reggie well, I don't think I can say the same for Megan's in-laws. They have always been kind of cold with my daughter, and even though that was in the beginning, and she really wants me to believe that they have changed and have warmed up to her, I refuse to believe it because if they really had accepted her, then they wouldn't have forced her not to invite her own mother to the wedding. Update 1. Hello everyone, so I last spoke to Megan a couple of days ago, and I had told her that I was not going to take that post on because I didn't think that it was necessary. The post had stayed up, and the comments had continued to pour in. I was quite happy with what was happening because apparently it was not just me that they had been treating terribly, but even some ex-employees had started commenting about how they had been treated while they had been working in Reggie's family business. So, in a way, I think I had done a good thing by opposing them for the kind of people that they are, and even though I knew that Megan was really upset with me and would probably not speak to me, I decided not to give in to the pressure because even she had disappointed me with her actions. It was a very tough call to make for me because after her father had passed away, it was just the two of us against the world, and she was the one person in my life that I never thought I would lose, but here we were, not speaking to each other, and I really didn't know what to do. I had pretty much made up my mind that I was not going to speak to her until she apologized. But I hadn't blocked her or anything because I wanted to keep that door open. And last night, Megan decided to text me, and when I received that notification, I thought she was going to apologize. But she was only telling me that she and Reggie were considering postponing the wedding until all of this had blown over because my post had created quite a stir, and his family did not think that getting married right now would be the right move for their image. Apparently, Reggie's father was even planning on coming after me legally, even though he did not have a legal leg to stand on because this is technically not even defamation since this is something that actually had happened. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just texted her back saying thank you for the heads up, and I left it at that. So then she replied to me to ask if I really had nothing to say about the fact that she and Reggie might have to postpone the wedding, something that they had been looking forward to for the past couple of months, just because of my post. I started getting frustrated at that point because I felt like Megan was only thinking about herself and Reggie but not about me. And I know that at this point, I shouldn't even be surprised, but it still hurts. Anyway, I decided to ignore that message. But she texted me again and said that she needed an answer from me because, after everything that had happened, the least that we could do was be honest with each other because I owed it to her since I was the reason that her wedding and even her relationship was at stake. That message really got under my skin because even after everything that happened, she believed that I was the one who owed her something. So, I typed out a message in the most sarcastic tone possible, that I was really sorry that she was in so much trouble because of me since I should have known that she was a spineless puppet of her fiancé and his family, and it was obviously not her fault that they had manipulated her into not inviting her own mother to the wedding, the same mother who had raised and supported her all on her own. It was obviously my fault that her fiancé and his family were terrible people and thought that I was beneath them just because I was a hardworking individual who had built a career for myself instead of just capitalizing on all the wealth that my family had already left me, which is what Reggie's parents had done. It's obviously my fault that her grandparents were just common folk and not business tycoons. Had that been the case, I probably would have been invited to the wedding. Unfortunately for her, she got stuck with a commonplace mother, and that was the root of all her troubles. After that, I did not want to hear from her, so I muted her and decided that I was not going to speak to her until she apologized to me in person. Even if she does that, I'm not sure if I'll be able to go back to having a normal relationship with her since this is all just ridiculous. Update 2. So, since I had muted Megan days back and had not been responding to her messages, Reggie decided to call me up today. He sounded very upset, but I tried not to feel too bad for them because when it had really come down to it, neither of them had defended me and stood up for me, and he had very obviously chosen his parents over me, so I had no reason to sympathize with them. Even then, I did answer the phone call because he called me about 4 times before I finally picked up, and I tried to be as civil as possible with him. He started off by telling me that he and Megan were really sorry that they had not been able to convince his parents to let me be present at the wedding, and the most that they could do for their actions was apologize. But they couldn't exactly go back in time and change it, so it would be pointless for me to keep that post up because now the entire family was gossiping about them, and they were thinking about canceling the wedding entirely. He told me that I knew how much this wedding meant to Megan because right from her childhood, she had been crazy about weddings and would always dress up as a bride whenever she was playing. Even up until recently, she had been so excited to get married, but now she was not even sure if that was going to happen anymore. The only solution to the problem would be for me to take that post down, and then maybe his parents would take the initiative of speaking to me in person and try to sort things out with me. But until I took that post down, nobody was going to back off. His dad had even started speaking to an attorney, and he asked me to delete it just for my daughter's sake. Once again, it was very difficult for me, but I had to tell him that I was not going to do that because this had come to a point where if I took that post down, it would be admitting that I was giving up. It would be like admitting that I was going to let my daughter, him, and his parents walk all over me, without any consequences, and worst of all, it might seem like me backing off, and I was not willing to do that. I didn't even care how petty or immature it seemed, but at this point, if his parents were not apologizing to me, then I did not see the point of taking that post down. Reggie got a little worked up, and he told me that there had been enough consequences of that post, and now it was pretty pointless to let it stay up. I was only letting it stay up out of spite and nothing else, and I agreed with him. I was keeping that post up because I wanted to teach his family a lesson, and even though I had already accomplished that, I didn't think that it was going to mean anything until they had apologized. It was very little that I was asking for, and if he couldn't even get his parents to do that much, maybe they didn't love him as much as they thought. So, instead of asking me to do certain things out of love for my daughter, maybe he should be asking his parents to do it for his sake. And I don't think he had expected me to turn the entire argument around on him, so he started to fumble his words and stuff, and eventually, he just resorted to emotional manipulation. He told me that he had always considered me as one of his parental figures ever since he had come to know me, and even I had acknowledged the fact that he was like a son to me, so I should think about him and my daughter, and I should think about that happiness. It was really ironic to me that he was playing all these cards without actually thinking about what he was saying, because if he really had considered me a maternal figure and considered himself to be like my son, then he would have stood up to his parents when they had said that they did not want me at the wedding. Not even my daughter did that, let alone him. So if I couldn't even expect that much of them, it was ridiculous of him to expect such things from me, and I told him that no matter what he said at this point, I was not backing down, and I was going to make sure that I got the apology that I deserved. I also told him that instead of wasting his time arguing with me, he should probably be speaking to his parents, because if this actually does go to court, they will be in a lot more trouble than me. I don't have any disgruntled ex-employees out to get me as well, but they do. And they will definitely testify against his parents if I approach them. And that means that their company will take an even greater hit than it already has. He tried to accuse me of blackmailing them, but I was only giving them a heads up. Anyway, after that, he was pretty much just grasping at straws, so I hung up. And I told him that I did not want him contacting me anymore after this, unless it was to apologize sincerely. Not these fake apologies where they would only say sorry because they expected me to take that post down and make it all right with his parents just so that they could get married. Update 3. Hi everyone, it has been 3 weeks, and I still have not taken that post down. Ever since I had the last conversation with Reggie, neither he nor Megan have tried to reach out to me either, and obviously, his parents have nothing to do with me. But today, I noticed that Reggie and Megan had posted that they were supposed to get married in 2 weeks. But unfortunately, that would not be taking place anymore, and the wedding had been postponed indefinitely. They said that they were still together, and they were going to be together for the foreseeable future. But due to unavoidable circumstances, the wedding had to be postponed. I didn't know how people had reacted to that information because comments had been disabled on that post. If I'm being honest, I do feel kind of bad for them, because even though they had treated me badly, I'm sure that it was very difficult for them to come to the decision to postpone the wedding as well. Although I'm not even sure how much of it was their decision, since I'm pretty sure that his father and his PR company had a lot to do with this move. They care a lot about their image and reputation and will do anything to protect it, so in all probability, that's a huge part of the reason why they had to postpone the wedding at all. Anyway, over the past couple of weeks, I have received hundreds and hundreds of messages and emails from several people who have been treated badly by Reggie's parents, and to my surprise, it's not just ex-employees. They even cut ties with a bunch of their family members who did not fit into the image of a perfect aristocratic family. For instance, Reggie's father does not speak to his brother anymore because he has stepped away from corporate life, and instead, he wanted to work on a farm, and that's what he still does now. But unfortunately, Reggie's father does not think that is respectable worker, and so they have not been in touch for several years. I didn't even know that the man had a brother, and that's how they treat him. It's very strange to me that in spite of having grown up with money, they act like it's the only thing that matters and are willing to cut people off if they don't fit in with the image that they're trying to cultivate. I guess that on some levels, it makes a lot of sense that they own a PR company because they are so incredibly shallow that superficial appearances are all they care about. Personally, I'm glad that they don't like me because I guess I'm too real for them. And I thank my lucky stars that they hated me enough to completely ruin their relationship with me because now I never have to talk to them again, and even if my daughter does get married to their son, I'm going to make sure I keep my distance from them, all of them, not just his parents. Update 4. Hey everyone, so several months of peace since I made that post against my daughter's future-in-laws, and their business might have recovered, but unfortunately, it came at the cost of their relationship with the kids. As I had guessed already, the reason that they had to postpone the wedding was because Reggie's parents believed that it would be bad for their image to get married while they were in the middle of so much controversy. However, I guess they just got sick of waiting after 3 weeks. and they just did not want to be caught up in our fight anymore. So the two of them decided to elope and posted it online without letting anyone know. That was another controversy, and eventually, that ended with Reggie's father disowning him. But I don't really think he cares because him and Megan have decided that they're going to start their own business. And they might not make as much, but they're going to be happy. I know this because about a month ago, they came to my door to apologize to me. They told me that they had been antagonizing the wrong person and did not want me to feel like I was the villain anymore because I really wasn't. If anything, I was the only person who made sense, and they were really sorry about everything that they had put me through. They confessed that they had been brainwashed and manipulated by Reggie's parents, and he did not want to lose out on the future that his parents would leave for him as inheritance. Which kind of makes sense because I don't think I would have given that up if I even had been in his place. But eventually, he realized that he was turning into his parents, and Megan also felt terrible about these things, so they had decided to try and make things right with me. They did not care about the inheritance anymore, nor they wanted to do was repair their relationship with me and live life on their own terms because they were sick of being Reggie's parents' puppets. It took me a while to forgive them, but eventually, I did so because even when her dad had passed away, I did not have anybody other than my daughter, and even today, I don't have anyone other than her, and this time, I felt like that apology was genuine. They did not expect anything from me. They didn't even expect me to forgive them, but I still did. When we are trying to work on our relationship because obviously, there are a lot of cracks here, but I hope that we'll be able to make it work. I'm happy with the way things have turned out, and I'm hoping that they will get better in the future.